I wanted to show you guys, I'm just starting to get into watercolor paintings, but I looked up online a few tricks and trades before I can actually learn it to kind of help me learn things as I go, I guess. And there were some pretty neat tricks that I think that everyone that's getting into watercolor should know. So don't mind the dark lighting. I don't really have like awesome lighting here. Actually, I might be able to fix this. Hold on. Okay, well that kind of made it a little bit better. Yeah, so there's a few different tricks and trades that I wanted to show you guys so that if ever you were going to get into it, it's just really good things to help make you a little bit less frustrated. And this is more like on texture and stuff, so you can kind of play with things and do things a little bit different. And mind you, there is some things I want to show you that are basic, and then there's some things that are kind of neat. Some things take a little bit longer to dry, so I kind of want to start those first, but I'm going to try to hold off and just kind of see how it goes. But like your first thing that pretty much everybody knows is you just basically wet on wet. So you just take your paper, or your brush, sorry, and you just wet your watercolor paper. You don't want it to be like too wet where it's like blotchy and everything, but you do want it to get at least a little bit moist and whatever, and make sure that it's, you can kind of like see the gloss over your paper anyways. And I'm just using regular watercolor paper from Michaels, nothing too fancy. Cold press, grain fin, durable surface. It's just big huge sheets that I can cut up and everything. It's nothing too spectacular. I'm using extra large, but this is just half of an extra large. Yeah, so basically you just wet your paper, get it nice and wet, and always have paper towel with you. I mean, anytime that you're trying to get into like painting and stuff, you should always have paper towel with you regardless. And then you just take your color and you just put it on, and it will only go wherever you put your water. I clearly put a little bit too much water here. Let's try to get a little bit more color. And the good thing about wet on wet is that if you wanted to take another color to blend with, you just like dab it and it'll like splatter. Like it blends really well with color, as you can see. And you can also like paint, move things around, and then as the color like progresses more, it'll blend in more, that sort of thing. And you can kind of play with it too, and kind of come up with like your own thing as well. Really, there's no right or wrong, because you kind of have to play with it yourself to figure out those things, I guess. Now, you can also do wet on dry, which is just, I don't really want to do it on here, but pretty much it's just the same thing with a wet brush. Don't wet your paper, and then just take the color that you want to, and then just paint. And it will only go just like regular painting, pretty much. It'll only just goes exactly where you want, doesn't spread, doesn't smudge. Yeah, pretty basic on that one. As well too, if you like did something and you didn't like how bold the color was or anything like that, you can always wet your brush and then just go back over it, and it'll take the color away. So I changed my mind. I don't want this part colored in. So I'm just basically have a wet brush, but it's just taking that color back away. I mean, you can do this too with tissue paper, actually. Paper towel. Paper towel is actually really good for no expert. Paper towel is really good if you want to do like clouds or something. Show you right here. Take your paper towel and you can like kind of scrunch it up any way that you want to, and then you just, it has to be a clean paper towel though, and then you just dab over it and you can make clouds or whatever your little heart desires. Pretty basic, pretty straightforward. And as you can tell, as this one's kind of drying, you can kind of start seeing that the red and the blue, because of the color wheel and blending together, it's kind of making purple. Just gonna add a little bit more water and kind of like play with those colors so they will blend in more. You will be able to see. Now the next one that I think is super neat and super freaking cool, and all you need is basic household table salt. It's super good if you were trying to do this technique with like trees or snowflakes or something like that. And I'm going to show you what I mean in this box right here. I do not have good brushes. I have really crappy brushes. I only started to get interested in painting. For the longest time, I was actually into the Breakfast journals and I was addicted to them, and now I've been kind of like stretching out. I don't know, I'm kind of lost interest, I guess, and I kind of want to try to see where I can go with this after. So eventually I will get good brushes. Right now I basically just have a little bit of brushes that I got off of eBay or the dollar store or anything like that. I suppose this brush will probably be easier. It is a watercolor brush. Blue. Now you don't want your paper to be, from what I read up on at least, you don't want your paper to be like too wet on this one, because the salt, and you don't want it to be too dry either, because the salt won't react with the color pigments in it or something like that. Like I said, I'm a beginner myself, and I'm just learning. So I got that, a really nice dark blue. And then I'm just going to take some table salt. I mean, I suppose you could try this with like Epsom salts or like, oh god, I don't know, sea salt. Like I said, it's really good if you wanted to do like snow, or if you have like maybe a bigger piece of salt, you could use it as like a tree on a winter night. I'm gonna do like as much, I'll also put the rest of it on there. And that's gonna take a while to react, but you'll see the difference slowly as it starts to dry. The other one that one's drying, I want to show you is if you have a picture and you want to add certain textures to your picture, a good technique like this one I find is really good whenever you wanted to do like a wood painting or something. or even like, oh gosh, I can't even think at the top of my head at the moment. I'm gonna go with wood because that's what's popping into my head right now, so wood it is. So you have your picture. If you have like this kind of tool, a cutting tool or a needle or anything, basically you want to take your watercolor paper and you want to cut deep lines into your picture to add texture of whatever you're doing. So I had drew a wooded fence, so you can kind of see the different types of texture that it's going to come when I start painting it. And you do want to press quite hard. You really want to get into that paper. You really want to like line up, make those lines pop. Okay, I'm just going to stop now before I make the picture completely crazy. And then because this is wood, I'm going to go with brown. I don't know if this is going to show up, and I hope so. It does work, but it's really light color. There we go. Now, I can see the difference because I'm sitting up close, but you'll probably only see the difference once it dries. I can see like the texture difference in the light part. Ouch. So I just zoomed in, and I don't know if you can tell better that way, but the fence has a bunch of lines on it, so it just kind of, like I said, it gives like a bumpy texture, and it makes it kind of look better, makes it look like wood. As for the salt, it still takes a while to dry, but I do have another technique that I really want to show you. However, I don't know if it's fully going to work because you need saran wrap, and I don't have saran wrap, but I do have like a piece of this plastic baggie, so I'm kind of hoping it does work with this, but we will see. I'm going to show you exactly what you do. I'm going to go with red. I like red. I'm going to go with red. I think I put too much water down here. I don't just bring my palette over here. I use just like a regular first beginner, I guess, tablet. I love this one. I have no complaints over it. I also have another one though that probably has a little bit more deeper, vibrant colors. I also got it at Michael's. I would not get your paint at the dollar store. That is just a disaster waiting to happen. Ugh. You're definitely going to learn how to paint, even if you don't even know this wasn't even that expensive. Alright, and then you just take your plastic baggie. I should probably cut this. And you put it, oh shit. Well, you probably want to make sure that it's equal to your paper. There we go. And you just put it over top and then swirl it around. It does take a long time for this to dry, but the effects is like kind of cool, I guess. So maybe you wanted to do a window with like shattered glass or something. I don't know, but this would be really cool. I think this is gonna work. I hope so. I moved it. Got a lot of bumps, air bubbles in there. You can also do splatters, which is really popular and a lot of people like do them. You just like flick your brush, let it plop. I've seen a lot of other people actually do like use toothbrushes too for this. Paint everywhere. Oh, the cleanup's gonna be fun. Yeah, but you can also like use toothbrushes and then take the bristle and just like kind of brush it on, and then it gives you like that polka dotted space. Or you can wait until your painting dries, and then you can splatter so that it won't smudge in and blend in. It'll just sit on top to give kind of like a polka dotted effect. That is really neat too. Yeah. So see, like this half was already dried, it wasn't wet, and like I'm doing like so yeah, I'm gonna do some splatters, and it should not. I'm splattering over everything. It shouldn't smudge. It should sit right on top and then dry over it. Yeah, I'm just getting splatters everywhere. You get the gist of it. Anyways, the last thing I want to show you is actually quite interesting. It involves rubbing alcohol. You wouldn't think, but it actually does. It's actually quite neat. Any kind of alcohol would probably work. I'm just going to show you. So I just painted the background green. It is still wet. I'm just going to put some rubbing alcohol in this little measuring thing, because I actually don't have like a squeezy tube thing. So I'm just gonna dip my finger in and like hopefully it splatters. There we go. Come on. So this is really good if you wanted to do like maybe a dandelion or something. And if it dries too quickly, it won't react. Oops. I find it's actually really cool. Okay, it's drying too quickly. I will show you the other two aftermath. Once it dries, I'll kind of post a picture to follow up. But yeah, so that's just some easy tricks and trades that I got off the internet. I'm sure there's more. I'm sure there's like way more. But I'll just kind of like zoom and show you if it'll let me. So there's the salt. As you can kind of see the background started, you see little tiny white things. I probably could... No, it's still, yeah, see, it's still wet. It's just smudging and it's ruining the background. So I'm just going to wait. But yeah, then you can kind of see the rubbing alcohol one. Yeah, my camera won't zoom for some reason. But you can kind of see how it looks like dandelion, sort of. It all has like, this kind of looks like a space galaxy type thing. It all has its own perks to things. I'm sure you guys will love to play around with it, but I just wanted to do this not only just because I wanted